Today we're gonna go over every method that you can use to remove recoil in the finals, and by the end of this video, your recoil will be entirely gone. Using these methods, along with some other things, have led to me receive countless of accusations that I'm cheating, that I'm using no recoil scripts, or that I'm on the re-WASD sauce. But no, I'm just that guy, and by the end of this video, you will be too. So let's start off with the basics. Having a fundamental understanding of how your guns handle will make it easier to get the most out of the next, more advanced steps later on in the video, so pay attention. All automatic and even semi-automatic weapons in the finals have a recoil pattern. This means that when you keep shooting, the bullets will keep traveling in that same pattern. You can see the pattern yourself by emptying a magazine of your gun of choice into a wall. The standard way to counter this recoil pattern is a very common one in most shooters that don't have any random bloom. It's just by moving your aim the opposite of the movement that the recoil pulls your gun, which cancels out the recoil and lets you hit large beams over very long ranges. Some weapons will naturally be easier than others, but all of them can be studied and learned. I recommend spending some time each day before you get on in the practice range, where you pull up your main weapon and then practice on countering the recoil against walls at several different ranges. After you feel like, yeah, I've warmed up, you can move on to the firing range and shoot at the 10-meter target, the 20-meter target, and finally, once you are ready, you can start shooting the target that's 50 meters away. It goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways, the cleaner your control of the recoil pattern is, the more damage you can do over really long ranges. But it's safe to say that having a good grasp of your recoil pattern and the feel of your gun also helps in closer ranges as well. As you are in game, all you need to do is stay aware of the recoil to actually apply your practice. Try going for beams on targets as far away as possible to test yourself. And if you find yourself in a moment of downtime, like say you're holding a cash out and nobody is showing up, take this moment and start practicing your recoil against any surface or wall or whatever. Gradually keep trying to control your recoil at targets farther and farther away, and keep doing that until any enemies show up or you can keep moving. So the less sexy secret to solid recoil control is simply having spent time drilling down the feel of the guns. And that's because once you've played a game enough, so that doesn't have to be the finals, it could be Counter-Strike, Apex, or whatever, even without active practice, you're going to have good recoil control. But spending this extra effort in learning it will allow you to master your recoil exponentially faster. Another trick that allows you to hit targets from really far away with both single fire and automatic weapons is just slowly tapping away or bursting at your target. The recoil resets really fast for either type of weapon, and when it does something that I think is unique to the finals. Your aim will return to the position where you were aiming before you started shooting. It'll just snap right back. Knowing how the recoil works and having a solid understanding of how your gun will kick when shooting will make transitioning into the next step a lot easier and yield you a lot more success. And that trick is called recoil moving. Recoil moving is a concept that exists in a lot of shooters today, and if you're like me and you came from Apex, you might already have an idea of how it works in your head, and I just have to say, throw that out of the window, or, you know, some of it. While the general idea of smoothly moving your aim negating your recoil being the same, there are a few key differences to how recoil moving behaves between games. A quick example, in Apex, you can virtually completely remove your recoil by smoothly moving your aim in one direction at a rate of over 3.74 degrees a second, which can then be combined with typical recoil control to let you beam enemies over really far ranges. But in the case of the finals, recoil moving only removes vertical recoil when you are smoothly moving your aim one way or the other. There's no threshold of speed that you need to hit, just moving your aim out will start removing your recoil. That being said, one of the largest key differences between that and in the finals is that in the finals, the faster your aim goes, the less vertical recoil your weapons will have, which becomes very obvious if you're trying to beam a target that's taking a zipline or a jump pad or who's just zooming around. The developers of the game know that hitting somebody moving that fast without any recoil moving mechanic would be near impossible. So if a target does zoom by in front of you, just relax, start following the trajectory of which they are traveling while still adjusting for the horizontal recoil, because remember, recoil moving only negates vertical recoil. The gun will still jump to the left or to the right depending on its recoil pattern, and you'll get plenty of kills with ease. And that seems to be the intended reason of why it is built into the game, but there is a way to abuse it beyond what the developers intended. We will get to that later, but first I have a few tips to make your aim a lot smoother, especially if you're a mouse and keyboard user. If you're a controller user, recoil moving is kind of already built into how a controller works, but that's not to say that you won't benefit from the tricks later on in this video. So how do you get smoother aim? First, ensuring that you have a decent sensitivity will be the key. If your sensitivity is too high, this will create a jittery aim as you try keeping your aim on the target, which gets in the way of, you know, the smooth part of recoil moving. But on the flip side, if your sensitivity is too low, you won't have enough arm space or mousepad space to actually stay on target. Second, make sure that there's no tension in your aim, your arm, your hands when you shoot. Make sure that you don't grip your mouse too tightly and try to relax your entire arm as you're playing. A quick hint, if you get tired anywhere in your arm when you are aiming, this means that you're tensing up in that spot as you are playing. So go out of your way to keep that muscle relaxed as you are playing. Staying relaxed when playing also has an additional benefit of significantly increasing your accuracy, not only because of the recoil moving mechanic, but because you're able to actually stay on your target. So working on your smoothness will always be a massive recommendation from me. Something that made a massive difference for me personally was giving additional thought to how I was gripping my mouse. In my case, I was pushing down on the mouse key or button or clicker, whatever, too hard, which was causing so much unnecessary tension. Nowadays, I try clicking with as little pressure as possible, and in order to do so, I try clicking with so little pressure that it almost feels like the mouse wouldn't go off in the first place. It sounds weird, but made a massive difference for me. And third, if you want to practice your smoothness, especially overriding old habits or building into the habit of keeping your aim arm relaxed as you do aim and shoot, I can't recommend jumping into an aim trainer enough. Any smoothness exercises in Aim Labs or Kovacs Aim Trainer will get you a long way and let you not only become more accurate, but also keep your aim as smooth as possible when it really counts. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at how you can abuse recoil moving to your advantage, even if your enemy isn't taking that jump pad or zipline or whatever. In fact, you can even abuse recoil moving if you're taking a 1v1 duel where you are shooting an enemy who's focused on you and is right in front of you. First off, let me explain mirroring. Mirroring a target in a duel refers to the act of mimicking their movement with your own. This means that you don't need to move your own aim in order to stay on a target, but instead keep moving your character in the same direction as your target to keep the enemy in your sights. This type of strafing is generally the most useful when you're at a health advantage, as putting yourself in a mirror generally makes you both deal about the same damage to each other. Anti-mirroring is the opposite of this, where instead of following the enemy's movement, you do the complete opposite. You could be mirroring and then swap to anti-mirroring to further aim off, or you end up switching to it because you're taking too much damage. Anti-mirroring forces both you and your enemies to use your aim a lot more, which does lead to more movement of your aim or aim movement, which leads to you needing to move your aim more to stay on target, which in turn forces you to move your aim faster to keep up with the enemy compared to you just mirroring or even standing still while trying to keep your aim on top of them. And since we're talking about more aim movement, this will be slightly harder than mirroring, but it is exactly where we want to be. Because by having our aim move as fast as possible, we will get the most out of recoil moving and the least amount of recoil possible. Because, as you might remember, the faster your aim goes, the less vertical recoil you get. Knowing how to mirror and anti-mirror does require some hand-to-eye coordination, and if you aren't super comfortable with anti-mirroring a target, you can always hop into the range, decide on a dummy that you want to practice on, and then just strafe back and forwards while keeping your aim on top of them. This helps you build that muscle memory of compensating for your movement, which helps with anti-mirroring later. Once you feel comfortable enough with this, you can move on to the next step, where you practice the same movement against one of the moving dummies. Continue to practice on dummies farther down the range, and eventually you can start putting it to use against real players. Remember to keep your aim as smooth as possible whenever you use it, and the recoil moving will help you with the rest. Once you feel comfortable enough with the recoil patterns, with mirroring and recoil moving, you can even start compensating for the horizontal pulse in your recoil by strafing rather than trying to compensate for it with your aim. But that does come down to feeling, so you can just try it out and see if you like it. Another benefit of anti-mirroring will of course be that you'll take a lot less damage. So there is no reason not to work this move into your daily routine anyways, recoil moving or not. I've actually noticed that recoil moving works on any type of weapon, including single fire weapons, fully automatic ones, and even the auto shotty. That being said, it does seem to lose potency the farther away a target is, so you will need to combine both your recoil control as well as recoil moving to get the most out of fighting targets at a very long range. Having a solid grasp of the fundamentals, as I've mentioned at the start of this video, will allow you to get the most out of recoil moving or just controlling your guns in general, and it will also allow you to hit those beams over range in those situations where you aren't able to start strafing back and forwards, like if you don't have the space to do so. So make sure to spend that extra time and effort practicing, and your KD will thank you. In addition to doing these drills, your KD will also thank you if you check out the video on the screen to learn even more about the finals. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.